peace and justice. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So I will try to synthesize the paragraph on epistemology, so we have more time to review concept of substance, essence, etc. Okay, so I go to page 253, number 37, as a part of its sapiential function. Sapientia in Latin means wisdom. Metaphysics is concerned with the problem posed by knowledge, partly for two things. Partly to validate its claim, that means to verify the value of our knowledge, and also to defend the possibility of our capacity to attain the truth. So two things. First, to verify the value of the knowledge we have, and also to defend. There is a dimension of apologetic here, to defend the capacity of the human intellect to know the truth. So the word epistemology comes from the Latin episteme, that means word for word it is to cause to stand. To cause to stand. Epi, astere, to cause to stand. That is the root of the make something stand. Now, that is the more epistemology. Epistemology, in fact, means to understand. To understand. Look at that. Understand. Interesting. Understand. Under in Greek is epi. Epistemology. You know? The same word. Understand. Understand, to be under, okay? To understand, to know. So, now I go to next. Yeah, there is no other title for that. Criteriology. Well, criteriology is given by some philosopher because the verb criterion in Greek means to judge. In fact, what is knowledge is not only to know, it is to judge. So it is the capacity of man. What is the truth? It is the correspondence between my mind and the reality. In fact, truth is essentially in the judgment. We saw that, remember that. Okay, and when we judge something, we use criteria, no? If you want to measure the length of the desk, we use a rule. We will use the foot of the King of England. You are loyalist in measure. You continue to use exactly the same measure used by your ancestor. Now there is another word, next page, gnoseology. Gno, to know, in Greek, gno. In England, gno, you know. Interesting, huh? It is the Greek use the way we know. You have the word gnostic, gnostic, agnostic, you know. So that comes from the word to know in Greek. And it's interesting to see the Greek and the English. Probably we come from the Sanskrit, the common language we have from our ancestors, from very long time. Okay, so I go to number 37.1.5, the controversial aspect of epistemology. In fact, epistemology, only to look at the name we use to express that, epistemology or criteriology or gnoseology, express that there is not total unanimity between the philosophers. That branch of philosophy we call epistemology is recent. In fact, it is from Descartes, the time of Descartes. Because, you know, Descartes put into doubt our capacity to know from our senses. So for Aristotle, we know through our senses, but Descartes said, no, we cannot trust our senses. We can trust only our intellect. I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I am. Okay? So there is no consensus on that. And it is really, you don't search in St. Thomas or Aristotle something about that. They affirm the capacity of the human being to know. There is no doubt about that in the scholastic philosophy and the Greek philosophy. Except for someone in Greek philosophy, they doubt about everything. We call the skeptic. But they were skeptic in theory. When they was bitten by a dog, I think they stopped affirming the dog maybe is only an appearance of dog. And when they ate a chicken, probably let's say it's only an appearance of chicken. We cannot live only by appearance. You know, sometimes philosophers, they are not connected to the reality. That is, when we study philosophy, we say, how is it possible that some people think like that? But you know, we try to find many new ways of explaining the reality. The next paragraph. Epistemology is a metaphysical discipline. The position adopted in what follows is that the study of knowing, or knowledge, knowing, the way we know, cannot be divorced from the study of being. You remember when we studied logic, we saw there are two levels of, in the level of the reality, the level of being, reality, Christ or being, and the level of knowledge, or idea, or concept. So the level of knowledge, in fact, reflects the level of reality. My knowledge comes from object. I cannot know what is a camel if there is no camel. So I know a camel through my experience of knowing a camel. So the first is the contact with the being. And from that, I can go to a second level, the level of knowing. But the level of knowing corresponds to the level of being. In fact, what is the truth? The truth is, it is the correspondence, the adequation of what it is in my mind and in the reality. I am measured by the reality. The real camel is not a camel I think, it's the camel on the field. And the real dog is not the dog in the dictionary, it is the dog. So that means the dog in the dictionary, or the dog in my mind, is there because first it was in the reality. So that is important here. The study of knowing cannot be separated from the study of being. And when we study in logic the first principle of being, they were a level of logic, but they were on the level of logic. Why? Because first they were on the level of being. For example, the principle of contradiction, to be or not to be. It is in my mind because first it is in the reality. A dog cannot be living and not living at the same time on the same aspect. You know, so that is common sense. The principle of the greater is the old is greater than the past. You know that when you are 6 years old. If your mother gives to your brother a complete cookie, and she gives you only a half cookie, you are not happy because you know that the old is better than the past. It's common sense, you know. Okay. In fact, logic is what we know is only the reflection of what it is. We see soon that knowledge is essentially a reflection. Reflection on our own experience of being. We reflect on our experience of being. The starting point of a realistic philosophy is this: to start from being, from sensible being, from the real object, the reality, the real world, okay? And not from my own capacity. Of course, in mathematics, I can start from my concept to go to other concept. That is second degree of abstraction. That is disconnected from the reality. The reality, when we think, to think correctly, we must be in contact with the reality. Nobody can speak about something he never knew, he never meet. Now we can speak about carousel, because I spoke to you about carousel. But if you never heard about the word carousel, or an image of carousel, or taste carousel, you have no idea. That is common sense, huh? Okay? So the level of knowledge is intimately united with the level of being. That means epistemology is essentially a part of metaphysics. Metaphysics is the study of being, existence, of existence. Okay? So, at the bottom of the page, as such a discipline, moreover, epistemology is not merely negative or defensive. The defense of the possibility of knowledge, we saw that, and one of the goal of epistemology is to prove that when we know something, it is valuable. But it is also positive investigation of knowledge and its property. They reflect of the structure of the real. That means my knowledge reflect. That is the theory of knowledge we study in philosophy of man. We spend hours on that, from knowledge, sense knowledge to abstraction. Next page. As I told you just before, when we know the reality, not only we have a direct knowledge of the reality through our senses, but we come back on our experience. That means every knowledge must be accompanied with some reflection. Because when we know, we are aware, awakened. Not only we know, but we know that we know. We know that we know. And that is knowledge. For example, a little child who is not aware of the knowledge, he knows things. A child can recognize his mother, can recognize his father, can recognize the dog in the house, But he does not know it is a dog, he does not know it is his father. But he knows. But he does not have intellectual knowledge at that time because he cannot reflect. So knowledge is linked with reflection. Okay, so for modern philosophers, it is frequently taken for granted, particularly since the rise of modern philosophy, think about Descartes, for example, that no one can enter the temple of wisdom without first making a critic of knowledge. A philosopher who did that systematically is Immanuel Kant. He wrote the critic of the pure reason and the critic of the practical reason. That no one, okay. What we can say about that? As it turned out, however, it is impossible to begin all investigation in this way. Man does not first know knowledge, he first knows things. It is from my knowledge of things that I know my knowledge. Okay? The first experience is the experience of the existence of things, the experience of being. And that is the starting point of the philosophy of Aristotle, and that philosophy was taken by St. Thomas. The first start of every knowledge is there is being. There is being. And from that, we reflect on that. So, for realistic philosopher, first, man can know what it is to know only in one reflective awareness of the knowing process. In fact, we cannot know we know if we are not in the act of knowing something. Like you cannot know what it is to taste a chocolate if you the experience of tasting a chocolate. If you never taste a chocolate, you have no idea what is a chocolate. So the first experience is not the experience of knowing, it is the unknowing in my mind, it is knowing the thing, the object. Huh? So that is the position because the realist, a moderate realism. Huh? Moderate realism. The position of Aristotle and St. Thomas. Huh? That means our knowledge starts from the experience of the object, extramental, outside of my mind, and from that I am aware that I know that. I am aware that I am knowing something. Well, you remember when you study logic, what is logic? I told you logic is like the grammar of thinking. Huh? The grammar of thinking. We think, but after a certain time we reflect how I think. You learn English when you were 2, 3 years old, no? But when you go to school, you study the grammar and syntax. You study the way you talk. But first you talk. Huh? Before knowing, you talk. It's the same here. Huh? We are in contact with the external world. We know the reality. That is the first step. Huh? The first level of intention. The contact with the object, with the reality. Huh? The first level of intention. You remember that? For example, John eats an apple. The first level of intention. Intention means here the tendency toward the object. You remember that is not a moral intention. Huh? So John is an apple. To know what is an apple and to know John, that is the first level. Now I go to a second level. I see John is the subject and apple is the complement of object. Now I am reflecting on what I know before. So we can say that the second level of knowledge is based on the first level. And the first level is essentially a contact with the reality, with the object. Okay? Therefore, reflection is the key to the problem of knowledge. It is through its use, reflection, that man realizes that what presents itself to him as sensible is also intelligible and is understood by his intellect in terms of proper object, that is being. Bon. Here you have the essential. First, it is through reflection that we realize that the sensible thing is able to be known. You remember when you study being? Huh? Being, every being is one. Every being is true. Every being is good. Okay? The three transcendental. And when we say that, what is the truth? It's not the truth in my mind, it's the truth in the being. That means the fact a being exists, it is a true being, like a true dog, a true diamond, not a plastic diamond, a true diamond. It can be known by an intellect. Every being existing can be known by an intellect. If you want, it is intelligible. Even if nobody knows it, it is at least known by the one who made it. Otherwise, it will not exist. Well, that if we study that in philosophy of God. Huh? I mean, that is a characteristic of being. So, I discover that every material thing can be seized by my intellect. Okay? It's intelligible. And what makes a thing intelligible? It is the fact it exists. The first condition to make a thing intelligible, it exists either in the reality or also in my imagination, like the unicorn, for example, like the leprechaun, if I am Irish, or like the Superman, or the Cyclops, etc. But the reality is the foundation of my knowledge. It is being is the source of my knowledge. Of course, I must be intelligent. But if there is no being, I cannot know. It's the reason why we cannot accept, I cannot accept the theory of Descartes. He says, the first thing, I think. And the second thing, I exist. No, I will say, first I exist. After that, I think that about my existence. If I don't exist, I cannot think. You know? For me, it's common sense. We understand why Descartes said that, because he was doubting, he was opposing the Jesuits who taught him scholastic philosophy. He tried to find a new way to explain the reality. A new way. In fact, in discovering them, that new way of explaining the reality from his mind, he was opening the way to rationalism. In fact, Descartes, good Catholic, going to Mass every Sunday, that he is the father of rationalism. Because of that. Because instead of knowing my knowledge depending on the object, my knowledge depends on my own intellect. Okay. So equipped with the first principle of being, which are neither postulate nor dogmatic assertion, but they are starting point that his mind must and naturally does embrace. As soon as I am in contact with the reality, I discover the first principle of being. You know, the first principle of being are not innate. For example, the principle of identity, the principle of contradiction, and the principle of causality. All those principles who are guiding my mind in the search for truth, they are not innate, but they are acquired at the first time I am in contact with the reality. The first time I begin to reflect, I use the principle of causality. For example, the first time a boy, a girl, asks his father or mother, what is that? Why it is that? Because they discover the principle of causality. Of course, he will never say that. But in fact, if the child sees something, he will ask, what is that? And who did that? For what? Etc. In fact, he asked the main question, important question we ask in philosophy. What is that? What are the constituent matter and form? What is the origin, efficient cause? What is the final cause? In fact, he is asking the question we ask in metaphysics. Why? Because the child is in contact with the thing, with the object, with the reality. It is in contact with the reality that he develops the knowledge of the first principle. Of course, it is only in philosophy you study that systematically. For example, he will discover the principle of identity. I am who I am, no. Not every child, it is only when we can reflect that we become to say I. Normally a child does not say the first, he does not say I. He will say Paul, he will say baby, baby, fine, baby. Finally he will say, I am hungry. The day he say, I am hungry, I am, when he say that, he knows the principle of identity. He identifies himself different from the other. You know? So that, or when he recognizes he did something, he does not say, oh, baby did that. No, I did that. When he said that, but he discovered that through the contact with the reality. That is very important. Our first principles are not innate, but they come as soon as we use our intellect in the contact with the reality. Okay? That is interesting to see how children develop their mind. This is a marvel. It is a marvel. When they begin to take the first question, it should be a great joy for the father and the mother. They should jump in. My child is intelligent, like the father, like the mother. No, it's true. You know, sometimes he walks, or he goes to the toilet alone. But the first question he asks you, it was a proof of his intelligence. He was able to reflect. He was not only repeating what you said or what your grandmother said, his grandmother said, he was expressing by himself. It's a beautiful. I have a great admiration for that. Huh? I have a great nephew now, and my sister told me how they are open. Huh? One is 2.5, 3 years old. They are open. They ask questions. Of course, the mother is always with them. Huh? So they are open because they are in contact. What makes them exercise their intellect? It is not their eye. It is the object. You see a dog, you see a cat, they see an animal, they see a and they ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. That is the way we discover the first principle of being. And the starting point is truly the object. I insist on that. Why? Because it is the central point distinguishing the different current of philosophy. If you are idealist, you don't accept that. You say, I know that because I already know that. No. The child does not ask questions in vain. If he asks a question because he does not know. It's not only to recall what he learned in the antecedent life, like Aristotle pretended, no? Metempsychosis. No? Okay, I continue, but man gradually builds up his understanding of things, distinguishing between one and many, being in nature or being in knowledge, all and part, cause and effect, and we can add substance and accident. Act and potency, essence and existence, and matter and form, etc. So now, little by little, we arrive to distinguish substance and accident, act and potency, essence and existence. I will come back next class on that. Okay, next page. So finally, by reflecting on this knowledge of things, in the light of the intelligible being, itself the universal criterion of truth. Finally, what is the criterion of truth? It's not my mind, it is the reality. I am measured by the reality. Even if I want that be a bed, this is a bed, I will it, no, it isn't. My mind depends on the object and not the object on my mind. Of course, the desk depends on the artisan who did that. But now when I know the desk, I receive the form of the desk, I don't put my form in the desk. Man comes to know the conformity between the intellect judging and the thing judged. The intellect judging and the thing judged. The conformity between my mind and the reality. And what is important here is the word judge. Because truth is essentially a judgment. A judgment of conformity. We say conformity, it is a judgment of conformity. I judge that what I think corresponds to what it is. That is the truth when it is real. If I say that is a bed, that is a sofa, that is a stove, it's not conform and not true. And not true. Okay? That definition is very important. Because if you accept that, truth is measured by something outside of you. Man is not the measure of truth. And that is very important against relativism, for example. Because in relativism, each one is the master of truth. You know? Okay. Now, next paragraph. Knowledge and consciousness. So, the fourth scientific question proposed by Aristotle, he proposed 4 questions. First, does the thing exist? And Latin, answer. The first question is, we will not study something that if the thing does not exist. We begin to know, to verify the existence of the thing. That means in every science, we start from experience, from an object. There is an object and we try to know it. So the first question is that is the object existing? Does the object exist? Now, if the object exists, we ask, what is that? Quid is? Quidity. It is what we study in logic. Remember the whatness, the quidity, the whatness of a thing. what it is, the whatness, or in Latin, the quiddity. Quid, what is that? Quid, the quiddity of the thing. That is the second question. And it is, in any science, it's very important. Before using a thing, we must know what is the thing. So it is what we study in philosophy, in logic, to find a definition, to precise what is that. Or in metaphysics, we call that the essence of a thing. The essence of a thing in relation with the existence. Oh, I will come back on that. I continue. And so is prepared to address the problem. Okay, the third question. What are its properties? Why it is like such? Why is not another? Why man has two eyes and not three? It would be useful to have two in front and one behind. I saw a program recently on PBS. He discovered a spider with 6 eyes. 2 in front and 2 on this side. It's not impossible. Because if spider have 6 eyes, why we cannot have 6 eyes? You know? So, what are the property flowing from the essence? And the property flowing from what is that here? And the property. For example, man is a rational animal. So what can I take from that essence, from that definition of man? I take 2 things. First, he has a body, he has senses, etc. And he has a mind, he has an intellect, he has a will, etc. So and finally, why? Propter quid. We are searching for the causes, the causality. Why? Who did that and why? Why it exists? First, it exists because something did that, or made that, or provoked that. And now we can, yes, why did it that, you know? So efficient cause and final cause. Efficient cause and final cause. In fact, the second was matter and form. A material cause. The second, what is that? It is what the constituent of that. What is material, what is formal. And the fourth question, it is what is at the origin, what is at the end. Okay? So the why, the existence, with regard to knowledge, one need not inquire about its existence, for this is a fact of immediate experience. We don't question about the existence. We question only, does it exist? And we start from the fact that the thing exists. And today some seminarians spoke to me. I never heard about a mysterious disease in South America. What is the name of that?
The sickness.
You spoke to me?
Chikungunya.
Huh?
The chikungunya.
Oh, do you know that disease? Well, yeah, we'll speak about that after, because we will be afraid. You will never come back to Venezuela or to Colombia. You know, it is a new disease, like Ebola. It is discovered recently. And that disease seems very, very serious. You know? That is the first fact. There is there is a mysterious problem. And now, secondly, what is that? And finally, we search what is the cause at the beginning and what is the cause at the end. Okay? It is the way we think. And all that is knowledge. All that is reflection. When we reflect on the reality, explicitly, most of the time, 99%, we don't use the question, but we use that in our mind. And continually, we are doing that. You go to a store, you see a new product. What is your question? What is that? You see the product. Or on television, they send you an information of the existence of the best soap. Don't forget, ladies, the best soap or the best cream. That is, something exists. Immediately we are searching, what is that? What is the constituent of that? What are the properties of that? And though I make you the most beautiful women. No more wrinkle. Even at 75 years old, you will go like a teenager. Be careful. Your husband is in danger. and who did that? What company did that? And for what? Etc. You know, to make me happy. In fact, take any reality, you have that. No question. The existence of the thing, huh? The constitution of the thing, what is that? The description of the thing, huh? And the property, huh? The quality of the thing, and finally, the cause of the thing. Huh? Okay. No, I already spoke about that. I go to the next page, not the knowledge itself. Page, yes. Well, knowledge, first, is a vital operation. Well, you remember what are the characteristics of life? Is that in philosophy of mind? Remember, it's a motion, huh? Motion. A dead dog does not move. And that is the first thing. But what kind of motion? It is an immanent, transient. There are two kinds of motion, transient and immanent. Two kinds. If you see a ball passing in front of you, and you see some boy, some kid, throw the ball, the ball is passing. That's a transitive activity. Transitive activity. May also, that transitive activity can be from two sources. It can be provoked by an organism outside of the ball. For example, a kid pitches the ball, then through the ball, but it can be also from within. And that we call that spontaneous motion. A motion from within. For example, your dog is very quiet, your cat is very quiet, suddenly the cat stands up and runs after something, Or the dog listens, it begins to bark, Spontaneous. You did not say bark. No, it barked by itself. Of course, there is a reason for that, But the movement comes from, that is spontaneous. It's a characteristic of life. Life is spontaneity. A movement not from outside, but from within, from myself, from within. And secondly, the result stayed within. Well, a classical example is nutrition. When you eat, remember, you eat, it is to nourish your body. That means the fruit of your eating, it is to renew the cells you live, and you assimilate. You study. It is to assimilate, I hope. That is the characteristic of life. A spontaneous and immanent activity. We call that a vital operation. So negatively, knowledge is not the result of physical mechanical process. That is the difference between repetition and knowledge. When I was young, I was a choir boy, and we know by heart Psalms, D.I.C., Re, Salve Regina. A lot, when I think about that, I say it was incredible. The memory a child can have. Incredible. I was choir master for boys. I was astonished all the time. They can recite almost the Gloria by heart. They know 4 or 5 masses in part by heart. I was always terrified when the choir but push on the button. But that is not knowledge. Why? Because they don't assimilate. It is psittacism, Psittacism, like a parrot. Psittacos, Psittacos in Greek means parrot. We repeat. Knowledge is assimilation. Knowledge is communion. You remember that, Why it is communion? Because when I know something, there is a communion between the object and the subject. So we have the subject, my intellect, my senses, can be my senses, my eye, my ear, the act, and the object. So, suppose you have here an elephant, An elephant, okay? You see an elephant. I saw elephant in Cameroon. Oh, you saw elephant maybe in South Africa, in safari, or in a zoo, or in picture. Anyway, you saw that. What happened? From the elephant come to you the form of the elephant. The form, not the form like that, huh? But the qualification. What makes an elephant elephant? Huh? So we receive the form. The form enter where? Enter your form. Because you are not totally material, you have the capacity to receive a form. So knowledge is the communion of the object and the subject. That means the form of the elephant becomes the form of my form. I assimilate the elephant. What is knowledge? Knowledge is to receive form. What is the action of the news at night? You open television, put on television, NBC. They give you information. They give you form. They take a form from something and they put that in your mind. You know, that is knowledge. Knowledge is an intentional union. Huh? Intentional. That means at the level of thought, the level of form. And to have the form of an animal, of a mountain, and any kind of car in me, that suppose something in the car, in the elephant, is not material. So that means the form in thing is immaterial. And that is the theory of Aristotle. Huh? Things are made with matter and form. And the form is the idea put into the matter. So I abstract, what is knowledge? Is to abstract the form of the thing and put that in my own form, in my mind. It's an intentional union. Though the condition to have knowledge is to have a certain degree of immateriality. Your cat is able to know. He knows very well the difference between a mouse, and a potato. You put a potato in front of your cat, you put a mouse, not the same reaction. He knows, but he does not know, he knows. That's different. He knows what happened. The form of the mouse enter his form, because the cat is not totally immaterial. There is something immaterial, totally material. There is something immaterial. In every matter, in every material thing, there is a part of matter, a part of non-matter. Immaterial. That's the theory. The theory is incredible. I can explain a lot of things. Why? Because we can reduce, for example, I cannot reduce this table only to wood. Because if I reduce the table to wood, there is no difference between a table, a chair, a bed, a door. There is a difference. Why? Because a carpenter put an idea, a form, intellectual form into the thing. And that, now when I know, I take that form, I abstract. What is the word abstract? To detach from. So I detach the idea of table and I enter that in my mind. It is abstraction. We studied that in the first semester. Huh? Okay? I go back to the text here. 38.1.3. When this is seen, one can define knowledge as the possession of something in an immaterial fashion, or the possession of the form of a thing without its matter. I continue. Now, it is essentially a relationship between a subject and an object. And that relationship is accomplished through the act. The act of seeing, for example. The color enters my mind through my eyes, so there is an act of appropriating the object color entering in my mind. The action. There is no act if there is no object. To see nothing is not to see. To see nothing is not to see. Okay? I continue. So the subject. So you have two poles. You have the pole subject and the pole object. I told you in the first semester that we can summarize the philosophy in a few formula. The formula of subject and predicate, and the verb to be. And the formula here, subject, act, and object. You can explain a lot of things only using that skeleton, that form. Okay? So the subject is the one knowing or possessing the form, and the object is the thing known or the form possessed. So I mean, I know the thing, or from the thing I think something in me, and that we call the form. So we say here that it is the form of the object which is possessed, not the object itself. When I know what is an elephant, I don't possess the elephant. I possess the form of the elephant. Because the object known by the subject cannot impress the form by its matter, but only by its form. I give you an example. I can speak to you in French. I can speak to you in French. You will listen, you have the matter. You have the matter, but you don't understand. You have the matter, you don't have the form. You don't have the meaning. So what is the most important? The meaning, no? So it's the same. The matter in itself, it is not intelligible in itself. It is intelligible because the matter has a form. For example, the form of wood or the form of desk. In itself, matter is indeterminate. We saw that before when we study philosophy of nature. Matter by itself is indeterminate. When we have second matter here, secondary matter or second matter, that is already determined. The piece of wood is determined. But I can put in the piece of wood another determination. I can put a statue, I can put a sculpture, I can put the form of a chair, etc. Okay? I continue. That requires a certain immateriality of the form, of the object, but also a certain immateriality in the knowing subject, in the one who knows. In order to receive the form of the object within itself, I continue to keep its own identity. That means I can receive the form of the whole thing in the universe, and I continue to be myself. It's not really, isn't it? So, and you don't get weight. You can absorb all the knowledge, and you stay yourself. Of course, your personality is different, because you are knowing, and before you are not knowing. That is a quality of your personality. But as you are the same. I am Michel Legault before I studied philosophy, and I am the same after I taught philosophy, you know. But I am rich, enriched of the form of the thing I know. In fact, we never finish to know, because our intellect is open toward the infinite. So it's the reason why I say, I hope in heaven we are not statues. And heaven is not static. Heaven should be the maximum of activity. We have time to talk with Plato, Aristotle, Einstein, Saint Peter, maybe Judas, we never know. Saint Vincent Ferrer, he said that Judas is safe. It's not a dogma of faith. No, the Dominican said that. Okay? And he was canonized. So it's not a heresy to say that Judas can be saved, because the mercy of God is infinite. Okay, so that is theology. I stop here because I am walking on eggs and banana peel. Very dangerous, you know. Rome have ear, walls have ears. I know that by experience. I continue. That requires a certain immateriality. Okay, I go now to number 3. Knowledge never occurs except in the framework of the subject-object relationship. There is no knowledge if there is only a subject. I can have a bright intellect, but if there is no object to study, it is the case if you take a genius, you put it in the dungeon for 20 years. He is a genius, but he has no object to work, nothing. You know, that is the worst thing we can have. And punish, when you punish a child, you say, go to your room. Huh? But be careful, no television in his room, otherwise he will be very happy. Huh? And also, the object in itself does not make knowledge. Knowledge is the union between the object and the science is essentially and the union between the word to know, the thing to know, and the mind of man who is knowing, the person knowing. Okay. So, at the bottom of the page, a being is constituted an object only by the relation to some living thing having the power of knowing. You know, a flower, a person you never know, you will never know, is it an object for you? No, it is a thing. It is a person. It is a thing. A thing becomes an object only when you are in a relation with that. So not everything is object of your knowledge. Everything can be the object of your knowledge. For example, I can know the 7 billion people on earth. I can know them. They are things. They are real. But they are not object of my knowledge. Of course, as a whole, they are object. But personally, they are not object. For example, did you know me? Was I an object for you before you know me? No. I was in nothing. But when you are in contact with me and me with you, no, there is a relation. That is knowledge. That is knowledge. Okay? So there is no knowledge if there is no presence of the object. You know, that is important. What says the Pope Francis? He insists on to go to the people, to be present in ethics, fundamental. A person, you have that. Go to Father Woolner, has got just a 34.4.3. A person is a supposite which has rational or intelligent nature. So a person is a supposite or rational nature, and a supposite is an individual substance of a rational or infrarational nature. That means a supposite is not necessarily a person. It can be an animal, it can be a flower. But when that supposite is intelligent, is rational, it is a human person. You know, it is the reason why, personally, I avoid to call people individual. In French, to call a person individu is almost an insult. We say that when we want to despise a person. Sale individu, dirty individual. That is an insult. We should never say individual for person. We should say person. I saw that individual, not that person. Because it is a big difference between an individual and a person. A person is intelligent. An individual is not necessary. Your cat is an individual. Maybe for you, he is a person. So you will study the hypostatic union, for example, when you study the nature of Jesus as God and man. Hypostasis, you don't know what is hypostasis. He has a nature. No? He has two natures. You know? In God, you have one nature in three persons. Those concepts are essential for theology. Is the reason why I gave you that page. When you study God, one and triune, you have to know what is a person, what is nature. You study incarnation, you must know what is person, what is nature. You study the Holy Eucharist, you must know what is substance and what is accidents. And when we speak about the contingency of man, then you have to speak about essence and existence. I have received my existence. I did not give my existence. My existence does not, I don't possess my existence. I am not the owner of my existence. Nobody is the owner of his existence. Why? Because we receive it. We depend on another to exist and to continue of existence. So it's the reason, okay, we say my existence, but we must know that we are not, strictly speaking, the owner of our existence, no more than the parents as the owner of their children. You are not the owner of your children. Otherwise, you can do what you want with them. You can send them to the butcher. Huh? They are good food, no? They did that sometime, huh? In the past. Some emperor in Africa, he did that. Huh? So, no, we are not the possessor. We don't possess person. We don't possess life, we receive. Life is a gift. Life is a gift. It's an argument to respect life in the child and to respect life in the old man against euthanasia. We receive life, we are not the master of life. Each one is not the master of life. The mother is not the master of life of her baby in the womb. The life is a gift. We cannot give life. We can transmit life, we cannot give life. For example, a wire here is not giving electricity, it is transmitting electricity. So the parents are transmitting life, they are not giving life. Only God can give life. Only God can give existence, but this existence, it is to pass from nothing to something. That is existence. Look at that, the word exist, huh? Only that, exist, X is. To be out of. Out of. Word for word, existence means to be out of. X, out of what? Nothing. Huh? Out of nothing. We are something because we receive existence. We are continually taken out of nothing. And that idea, we see that in theology, it is the idea of creation and conservation. Huh? Okay. I go to page 233. Okay. Well, I don't want to insist too much on that. I will say a word about causality. About causality. Well, I already spoke about that in logic. Huh? The four causes. And what is important in causality, it is a link of dependence. A link of dependence. A series, but of dependence. A sequence is not causality. To have causality, there must be dependence. Huh? For example, I gave the example in the other class, the Expo of Montreal, they went to Rockland, just on the Oakland, on the other side of San Francisco, to play baseball. And when they began to play baseball, there was an earthquake. Therefore, the Canadians are the cause of the earthquake in San Francisco. No, it's only a succession of events. Huh? But if there is a link of dependence, that is causality. Okay? So we have page 238, the formal cause as act, the material cause as potency. So we distinguish matter and form. Huh? The material cause, for example, the wood is the material cause of the desk, and the act is the idea of desk put into the wood by the carpenter, by the artisan. Okay? So the potency, we already spoke about that, act and potency. Now make a distinction, important, 35.3, between cause and condition. A condition is not a cause. For example, in the class here, we need light. Is light the cause of the fact you can read? No, it is a condition. The air we breathe is a condition. Okay? So there must be a difference between a condition and a cause. Huh? Okay, page 239, some conditions are so important that the causality cannot be realized without them. We call that at the bottom, at the top, condition sine qua non. Sine qua non. That means without that, nothing can happen. If you come during, you pass your examination, but there is an outage, no more electricity. Electricity is at night a condition to be able to read. You have eyes, but you cannot read because you need electricity. Condition sine qua non. Okay? Now, occasion in the middle of the page. An occasion is not a cause. For example, you pass in front of a tavern after your work and you are thirsty. And what you do, you enter, you drink 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, and finally you arrive at home, you are on 4 legs. Is the tavern the cause of your drunkenness? No. Is the occasion. Is the occasion. And sometimes in moral ethics they say, they confound occasion and responsibility. They put the responsibility on the occasion. So the formal causality, it is what determines strictly the existence of a thing. For example, what is the formal causality of you? It is your soul. My soul is the form of my body. My body is my material causality, but the form is my formal causality, my principle of life. Okay? Now, in the middle of the page, the formal cause is identified with essence. In fact, the formal cause, it is the essence of a thing. Rationality is the essence of a thing, So we can say that the formal cause is the nature, is your essence, is your nature. So sometimes we give as equivalent of essence, as equivalent of nature, the form, or the formal cause. For example, we say, my soul is the form of my body. Okay? Okay, you can read that. It's the same when we know, we receive the form of thing. Page 241. Now, the formal causality, the causality of the form, from the precedent consideration, the causality of the form is the causality of an intrinsic cause. In fact, we distinguish 2 categories of cause, intrinsic and extrinsic. So the intrinsic cause, that means the cause constituting the whatness of a thing. The whatness of a thing, the intrinsic, it is matter and form. Material cause and formal cause. That's the intrinsic. And we have the extrinsic cause, the efficient cause, the origin, the one who did that. And we have to distinguish principal and instrumental. And we can add another one also between that model, exemplary cause or model. I will explain that. And finally, the end, the final cause. So here we have the sentence. Well, the final cause, we know what is that. The end, everything we do, it is for an end. Everything. Everything which is finite is caused by some efficient cause. Well, in the efficient cause, we can distinguish the principal agent and the instrument. For example, you are writing. Who is the principal cause of your writing? You. But your pencil is an instrumental cause, And yet you can, even a person can be an instrumental cause. For example, a priest, when he gives the absolution, is this the instrument cause? The efficient cause is Jesus. But Jesus passed through a priest, So an instrumental cause can be a tool, non-intelligent, can be also a person. For example, God uses my parent to give me life. So my parents are the instrumental cause of my but they are intelligent, they are free. So I can, don't forget causality is analogical concept. Huh? So at the point of view, I am an instrument, but I am responsible for what I do, because I am intelligent. Okay, so material causality, we saw that. Efficient causality, so you have that on page 243. No? It is very well explained. No? But I want to say a word about the exemplary cause, because in theology we use that. That means when a sculptor wants to make a statue, or an architect wants to build a house, he must have a kind of model. He can take, for example, a sculptor can take a woman, a man, and he say, okay, sit down, or take the harrow and stay like that for hours, and I will paint you, That is a model. In fact, the model is what the painter will put into the matter, what the sculptor will put in the matter. In fact, the exemplary cause is very close from the form, very close to the form. When David was sculpted by Michelangelo, it was the form of David who put that in the marble, but the form of David was the exemplary of the young man who was a model, A bungalow, we have a kind of bungalow, we try to imitate that, and we create your bungalow. We have a model, a first model. That is, it can be used, it can be considered as a form. It can be considered also as an instrument. It can be considered as the fact that I want to reproduce that, So the exemplary model for a Christian is Jesus Christ. Is the perfect model we want. So it is, Jesus Christ must inform our life, inform. He is the efficient cause. He is the final cause. So the exemplary cause in theology is very important. Very important. In philosophy, we don't speak too much about that. But in theology, it will be very important. And finally, the final cause, it is the end or action. Page 246, and you have a word about the exemplary cause. And finally, a last idea, I have 1 minute, give me that, please. Very important, page 247 at the bottom, the idea of participation. Very, very important in theology. Participation is a concept closely related to that of causality. It signifies a derivation of temporal diversity from eternal unity and the structural dependence of the many on the one. In its natural theology, participation is used to explain the complete dependence of creature on the Creator. It is, in the order of efficient, exemplary, and final causality. What is the meaning of that? That means when God gave us, for example, gave us to live a virtuous life. For example, you are very, very merciful. So God gave you not only the grace of being merciful, but He'll allow you to participate in His mercy. Like the father, for example, when the father has a success, he makes his children participate in his success, in his business, for example. So God not only, that is very, very interesting, the idea of participation. And we have that at every Mass. When the priest put the water into the wine, what he says?
This mingling.
That
Share
mingling.
the divinity of Christ as
Who
He shares
share in our humanity. Jesus participated in our humanity in such a way that we participate in His divinity. So that is, of course, we cannot do that by ourselves. So it's the reason why we say the idea of participation is linked with the idea of causality. So when God gave us, for example, He gave us our intellect, He made us to His image. In fact, He made us participating to his intellect. We participate in his intellect, in his knowledge. He allows us to participate. He does not stay, he is totally apart, but he wants we participate in his love. It's a beautiful idea. The idea of participation is the way we can explain the gift of sanctifying grace. We become participating of the divine life. But that idea of participation is idea of causality. And finally, on page 241, the idea of synthesis. I will come back on that when we study ethics. The synthesis is about it. So I try to give you in 1 hour, but that chapter is excessively important. Not for the examination, but for your studies in theology. And most of the concepts we use now will be used in theology. Okay? Can you stop, please?